There's nothing to compare with the experience of New York City. You know, the bright lights of Times Square, leading millions to the doorstep of Broadway. And in 2016, for me, almost 8 years after my first trip to Broadway as a kid, I returned as a college student to see the new show by Cirque du Soleil called Paramour, and I loved it. Went to go see it with my mom. We were just in awe of the bright lights and the spectacular dances and the performers. So it's been 5 years since its debut on Broadway, and I really wanted to host a reunion today with the cast. So I am very blessed and honored to have the original Broadway cast join me on the show, and I'll let them introduce themselves to you.
Well, thank you so much for having us. My name is Ruby Lewis, and I played Indigo, the poetess, I guess you would say.
Hi, my name is Ryan Vona, and I played Joey, the composer.
And hey, I'm Bret Shuford, and I played the choreographer, Robby.
Robby.
I remember kind of following the show, the news about Broadway, because I'm just a Broadway geek through and through. And, you know, there were so many news stories about it prior to you guys opening in 2016. And I remember, Ruby, we saw you on the Thanksgiving parade when they had that huge float. So that was kind of like our first glimpse, but we didn't know too much about it. It was like kind of like a shroud of mystery. But before we jump into the show itself, I wanted to know, when were each of you introduced to Cirque? Did you ever see any of the shows or any of the movies?
I remember my first Cirque show, and I still have actually this beautiful figurine that my sister got me for my birthday. And I think it was actually in Hawaii, I want to say, that we saw this Cirque show. It was a tent show. I don't remember which show it was, but I remember seeing it and being completely in awe of it. And I still have the figurine just because, I became a major fan of the brand and of the style. I thought it was so theatrical and so interesting. And I want to say I was probably in college, I think, when I saw my first one. It was incredible. It made me as anxious as Paramore, watching them do all their Cirque stuff.
Yeah. I think the first Cirque show I saw was Mystere in Vegas, because I booked a show in 2000, doing a show at the Rio in Vegas. And of course, like Ruby knows, because she lives in Vegas, like the entertainment community is really tight there, really small, like close-knit community. And I met a bunch of Cirque people. They're like, you should come see our show. And I went and saw Mystere, which is like, I think, the quintessential Cirque, like original kind of Cirque style show.
Yeah, I think my first experience with Cirque was in college. I went to Penn State, and there were a Cirque show came through. It was Kidam, and I saw that at the big basketball arena. And then I'm forgetting what the name of it was, but it wasn't Cirque du Soleil, but it was another company. What's the one they all work for, or a bunch of them do? But it ended up they had. I remember they did a trampoline act, and I found out that I think 2 or 3 of the performers in the show ended up being in Paramore with us. I'm pretty sure Fletch was in that show. And so it was wild to be like, oh, I've seen you do the thing that we ended up doing every single night together. Before I even could comprehend the importance of what Cirque was to these people.
Yeah, you never get used to it. It's not like when you do a musical and people are dancing and doing amazing dancing. Eventually, you get used to it because you see them do it every night. But we never got used to it. Watching them do the hand to trap act or any of that stuff.
Those stunts were wild. They were very extravagant. I do encourage our listeners to take a look at some of the video clips from Broadway.com, because you'll see that there are so many different segments of this story, which is a love story that goes through the big hit hits of the movies, and it's so much fun to watch. But yeah, you kind of hold your breath in because you're watching the two wonderful twins kind of fly over you in the audience, and then the love triangle acrobatic act, and then of course the kind of Seven Brides for Seven Brothers ode to Hollywood sequence where they're just like bouncing off of the wooden beams, and we were just kind of whoa. And that was actually going to be one of my questions, is because there's always going to be that sense of something can happen. They prep to the most potential they can, because I saw that one piece that they did on Nightline, I believe, and they were showing how everybody's usually in really early before the show, and they're already, prepping their bodies and also testing and doing the trick before the show. So there's like more to go into the work behind this. So when you guys are watching, is there anything that they told you prior ahead of time? Like if something were to happen, is there something that you must do as an actor to either just get off the stage or to help assist?
Yeah. There are the two most important signs for stage management and the crew and the cast to have together is this tap on a fist to the top of the head, which means I'm okay and we can keep moving forward. So like after you like take a little spill, if you're fine, you'll just do that. But if something's going wrong with tech or an acrobat gets hurt and we have to like completely stop, like safety over everything, you just do a big X with your arms, and that symbols a stop, hold to the show. And I think we did it. There have been a couple times. I do remember the one that sticks out most. It was a technical issue. The hand to trap. The trap was coming down, and like they were on the trapeze, but then there are these like irises that come in from the stage. Like everything was just shaking, and I'll never forget Jeremy just like being like, "Stop, hold!" in the middle of a show, like 2,000 people in the audience, and we just hightailed it off the stage. And hello, Sarah Meahl.
Sarah made it. Hey, Sarah.
I'm Hi.
We were just jumping in and talking about like the craziness of having acrobatics in the show, making sure they're safe. And we were Ryan was saying one of the instances where they had to use the X to kind of stop the show. Do you remember anything like that? Or
I remember the X happening all the time. And I also remember the one time the X wasn't happening and it should have was the time that I honestly forget everyone's name. Like I blocked this entire 5 years of my life.
I'm Ryan. I played Joey.
No, I remember your name, but the ones who were on the swing. Mm-hmm. There was a time when something was happening in the grid of the theater, like the rooftop of the theater, and everything just started shaking. And Ruby, you were singing Love Triangle with Jeremy and Ryan, and suddenly everything started shaking, and she was standing on his head. Miriam was standing on her husband's head, about to dive down to the earth below, and everything was shaking, and she was just like balancing like this, like shaking, and no one was calling stop. And Jeremy Kushner was just like, stop. And he stopped the show. Yeah, he stopped the show, and Claudette came on, and she was like, everyone, we need to take a moment. They didn't know what was happening. They had no idea why the roof was shaking of the building. There was no storm. It was weird. That's like the one time I remember.
I mean, the thing you should know is that when you work for Cirque, you sign everything away. So you're not allowed to talk about any of this. But so anyway, so that's why you would never see anything. And they have people who literally like scour social media platforms and things and make sure that there's no negative press if they can eliminate as much of it as possible. Not that this was a negative experience, but it was definitely like startling.
Yeah.
And considering
curated
every single night though, like compare it to Spider-Man or something like that, I can't believe how everyone stayed safe. I honestly think they were all like risking their lives every single day and
every night.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, Ruby, on the Nightline special, you mentioned that you hurt your ribs, and I was like, oh my God, I literally freaked out when I heard that, because it was for a trick that didn't end up in the show. Was this something with the old skirt that they had, like that magnetic skirt that pointed up when you were upside down?
I just wasn't 90 pounds. They were trying to throw me around like I was 90-pound little acrobat, and I wasn't. Like, it was, the trick was, it was just a cartwheel, like, where they handed me off down this line. But, you know, every single person who handled me, it was like their thumbs and their fingers and whatever. Somebody's thumb ended up slipping under my rib cage. I'm still upset that the trick was cut, because I thought it was pretty impressive.
There are worse places the thumb could have gone. If I remember Andy and Gassia's story of how they met, a thumb went somewhere different.
In the wrong place. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the acrobats from the twins, him and his wife Gassia, who was also in the show, they met doing a Cirque show and got off, and then his went somewhere that wasn't her rib. And now they're married and they have lovely children. But yeah, that's what Cirque is. It's like a complete, like, do away with all your boundaries and do the job safely.
It sounds like you become closer as a team, because it's very hands-on. And one of the funny things, Sarah, I think you posted every time on Instagram, is the dance for the barn dance when you were on for Indigo, because Ruby was out and your partner didn't come up. Can you please tell that story?
Usually, Ruby would do this dance with somebody. And
was it Tuckey or Nate?
Actually, yeah.
It was a cute little jig. And everyone did it behind her with a partner as well. And this one night I was on, but everyone had called out, like, there was a shortage in humans. And our dance captain was like, I'll do it. And then there were so many spots he needed to fill, and he was trying to be so many people that he just, in this one moment, was working with someone else. And you can see him in the video looking out, realizing he's supposed to be with a different girl. But I just kind of like looked around and I was like, well, I'm used to doing this in the ensemble behind her, and I know what she does, and I know that she's not going to have a partner. So I just kind of like did what Ruby would do with a partner, except I filled a lot of it with like fan kicks. I got nervous. Already nervous, because like that was the scariest, like Ruby's show was scary, so to me I just did a lot of fan kicks. And then there was one moment where she did a cartwheel, so I cartwheeled, but then I was spinning on the floor. Like more fan kicks, and then it was over and it was done, and it's a good memory, and it was funny the whole time. Like it wasn't like not funny for a minute, it was always funny, you know. There's some stories that when they happen live, it's not funny, and then you get there a couple years later. But this was always fun. It was fun. The stakes were low. No, everyone was safe, which what matters.
Because Brett, you would fill in for Jeremy as AJ occasionally too. So what was it like to kind of fill in that track?
They had to age me up for it, so I really liked my wig. I liked getting to sort of be this different kind of commanding character. But what was that? Mr. Sheffield, that's what she called me from The Nanny. Because I looked like Mr. Sheffield.
What if you met the right girl? You think she's going to wait all that time to settle down and start a family?
Oh, she's the right person. She'll understand.
No, she won't.
But, again, I think for most of us who were in the sort of musical theater side of the show, it wasn't quite as high stakes. And in a show like that, that Cirque element just really always felt like the priority. It just always felt like whenever I'd go on, it was just about setting the stage for those acts and for those performers to shine. And, we were really kind of, for the most part, they integrated those acts into the story. Okay. But I always felt like, going on as AJ, the scariest thing for AJ was his entrance, because they had to pop up on that toaster. Right. And that that was like not the way you want to start a show, because it's not like you're like climbing into the show. You're like literally your heart is racing because you know your stomach's going to drop before you have to sing. So that always scared the crap out of me. Because you're down in the pit and you're just anticipating this thing just like shooting you up out of the floor. And then Jeremy has such a freakish voice. Like some of his notes were just like, his placement is so specific. And so vocally, sometimes I would get pretty nervous, like with Love Triangle and even the Hollywood Wiz. So it required a lot of focus. And but I always felt so supported by everybody in the show.
Jeremy started, he only had, was it 13 days to learn the part?
Yeah.
Because there was somebody previously in the role who left, and yeah, he had 13 days to learn the part. I couldn't believe that when I read that. I was like, oh my gosh, that the pressure is high, and he has the most lines in the show, besides from you, Ruby. So how was that like to help him kind of ease in? Because you guys had already been in the process for a couple months now working with everyone. So he was the newbie.
We were still trying to pretend like everything was fine, even though nobody knew what was going on. Like, he came in and we still didn't know what was going on, even though we were teching the show and we were like, we still don't know what's going on, but we're trying to pretend like everything's fine, like, oh, yeah, this is normal. Everything's great. Jeremy's looking around like, is this normal? Is this, what is going on? Yeah. So he got really thrust into something and had to learn quickly.
Yeah. I definitely envy his experience of it. I wouldn't trade the friendships for anything, but if I could have just had like a little bit less of the creation, I'd be drinking a lot less coffee today.
Coffee, yeah.
Because they had, Ruby, originally you were a lyricist as the character of Indigo, and then they cut that whole storyline with you and Ryan. Ryan was the composer, and you were the lyricist, but they still kept the line in, like, right before the Everything song.
Lyrics? Yeah, you're right.
I was like, what?
I will rock the woods. Yeah, totally. I forgot about that. Every day we would show up to Grumman Studios and we're like, who am I? What am I doing? What's the point of this?
Yeah.
Oh, love. Okay, well, we're in love, but what?
But now you also love AJ, and he just wrote a monologue for himself, and
there was a part where I was Lila, and Katrina was Gina, and then they switched us at some part and gave her a song, and I was like, okay, good. I don't please. I thought I was just dancing in this one, and I wasn't the understudy for Ruby. I did not sign on as a cover.
Oh,
I signed as a dance. I tumbled at my audition. I had to flip. Like, I thought I was going to show up as a hybrid acrobat dancer.
Oh,
and then I was a whole different track. It was very strange. We were just creating,
But they gave you that monologue at the end, right? That wasn't originally in the script, where you kind of stand up to AJ. I remember the audience flipped for it because they really liked it. That you stood up to him.
That was the rewrites. That was when they brought in
Sergio Trujillo and Joe
DiPietro.
And I felt so bad because I was like, that was so interesting. I really liked that. I was like, oh, maybe a little bit more of that for Robby and your character. Because I was like, what's going on?
Well, what ends up Cirque, what they were trying to do was develop a musical in a Cirque process. And the Cirque process has no structure. It's like you literally come into a studio for them, usually it's like 9 months. You're like birthing a show, and they just play and create and create and create. And in musical theater, you need a director and a choreographer, and you need a book, and you need to know like what story you're telling before you bring people in. Otherwise, no one knows what's happening. But Cirque was like, we are Cirque. We have been around for 40 years. We make amazing things. So our process will be flawless. And it ended up being really a struggle we rehearsed for 5 months. The acrobats were complaining because 5 months wasn't enough time for them, but we were complaining because 5 months was too long for us, because we're all used to rehearsing a show for like 4 weeks, 6 weeks, So then we opened the show, and even I think the day that we did our first preview, I think we finally choreographed it, finally staged the finale, right? I think it was like the first preview, right? And that was,
and then we had to cut it.
Right, and then we had to cut it. And that was after 5 months of rehearsal. So it just ended up being this real interesting exploration in how to do all of that. And so then we opened, and I don't know, was it like 3 months or less after we opened, they were like, we're bringing in a book writer and a choreographer to actually fix this. And so that's when like Gina's storyline got a little more fleshed out, and some of that stuff got fixed that wasn't totally landing.
And the costumes, because the costumes, Ruby was just saying off air before we started that she got new costumes and there are a little bit of changes there. So can you please tell me about those costumes? Because I am really obsessed with them. They're so gorgeous.
Yeah, everything went through Cirque at first. And I mean, being at the headquarters in Montreal and stuff, I mean, you cannot deny that these people are true craftsmen and stuff. So, but they were trying some different things with the costumes at first. And they're not used to building costumes for musical theater women, I will say. So it was like, I was like an acrobat and at first as I was being costumed. So then when we came through and kind of tidied the show up and finally got to work with Eric Winterling and like got some real Broadway costumes that were so freaking stunning. Thank goodness, because it was like finally Cirque was merging with Broadway, truly and honestly. But we opened, and then it took several months for them to realize, no, this is important that we acknowledge the people who are professionals at this sort of thing, and we're going to let them do what they do best. And it was awesome. Yeah. It was so great finally to feel like, oh, we're in a Broadway show. We're doing this with Broadway people.
But I've never in my life done a Broadway show that had the budget to be able to do that. I never worked on a show that was like, we opened, now we're going to close and we're going to rehearse you on your day off, which is like triple pay or something crazy. And we're going to retech and we're going to hire a new choreographer and write a new book. So that is the luck that Cirque has, is to have that kind of a business entity to be able to afford to even take that risk,
I know that a lot of people have been following like the most recent Broadway shows. For instance, just to give an example, Beetlejuice got this crazy amount of fan base, basically because one of their stars started using TikTok. And it really came to me of the dub smash videos you guys were making, because they were so funny. Just if you guys, for people who don't know what they are, it's like they take lines from movies and TV shows and you just kind of, lip sync to it. And I was like, this would have been, because, if it would have been now, I feel like you guys would have gotten this fan base that would have gotten huge, and there would have been more people come and leave the show running for a couple more extra months. You know what I mean? Those were so much fun to watch. So who was the one that started it?
Brett.
We would always be in Ruby's dressing room, and they'd be like, okay, we're doing Harry Potter. We're doing Christmas Story. Oh, well. And it was just like, okay, what are we doing today? And it was a way to kind of like keep it
distracting. It was a way to help us distract and stay energized. And it started actually at Grumman. Like, I think the first dub smash I actually still have, it was me and Ruby sitting on the couch, and we're like lip syncing to "It's Time for a Hickey, a little quickie." Do you remember that song? And then I was like, it just became a fun way during those crazy rehearsal days to be like, let's just do something that has nothing to do with what we're currently doing. And then when we got into the theater, it was like, at that time they were doing Saturday intermission picks. Like Andrew Keenan Bolger had started that with Max von Essen. And we were like, well, we'll do Saturday dub smashes. And so it just became this goal every Saturday. What's this week's dub smash going to be? Let's just keep to keep us in positive spirits and keep us energized. And so that it became fun. And then it became, sometimes it felt like a chore, but then we wanted to stay consistent. And But it would always be really fun when we could do something where everybody could be in it, where we could get the acrobats to do something, and it just became a really fun project every week.
Oh my God, can you just be cool? Once, please. Just once. Can you just once be cool? Once. Please.
You seem so down today, Robin. I made you cookies. Damn it, Patrice, stop smothering me!
Who's your daddy?
Who's your daddy?
I don't know.
I love them. I think my favorite was the body rolls one. Watch out for my body rolls. I was so, because that's actually how I really didn't want to know too much about the show before I went in, but I was seeing like Instagram kind of sees what you're searching. So I was searching a couple things, and then I saw your dub smashes, and I was like, oh, this is fun. These guys are having a blast. So that was like my kind of pre-show introduction to you guys. Saw the show, and I was like, you guys are having so much fun. So I enjoyed all of those.
We got in trouble a few times with Cirque because, again, they watch everything like a hawk. And there was one we did for Labor Day where Ruby gave birth to the Atherton twins, and they did not like that one. They made me take that one down.
I missed it.
We had trouble in the middle of the show.
Some of them I still have, but we couldn't publish them. So maybe one day there'll be like a behind the scenes, like the dub smashes you didn't see.
Didn't the Athertons do something where they were like in their top hats, just like a top hat, and they posted it, and
it was Reed and I think it was Reed and Kevin, and they just had the top hats covering their crotches, and it was like happy opening night. Yeah.
It looked like you guys were having a lot of fun, and that stage and the theater is beautiful. I remember walking in, and I was like, good Lord, I feel like I'm walking into an opera house. So, and it was really lovely because you guys at the time were raising money. I think it was for AIDS, if I'm not mistaken, because you were coming out with the buckets.
Yeah,
yeah, it was really lovely because we got to meet you in that lobby, and it was just so cool to kind of be able to gather. When I'm thinking about back to this experience, I'm like, oh, those were the days because of everything going on right now. What have you guys been up to now since, Broadway's kind of shut down, which is the saddest thing in the world, but, for everybody's protection?
I'm in Vegas, so at least there are a few venues open here, so I've been kind of doing just more singing, cabaret type stuff, like trying to keep myself occupied by singing, which is good. It's nice to have a place to sing for people. It's tough though. It's just really not the same. It's just hard. It's hard to keep the ball in the air, so to speak, when, on virtual, on Zoom and stuff. It's just different. It's very different. It takes more energy, I think.
I'm doing my best to just sort of like appreciate this time. I've been, I got married in July, and but since then, we went to Ohio to visit Caitlin's family, like immediately, like we had 2 weeks of quarantine, then we went to Ohio, and then after the wedding, we stayed with my folks until 2 days ago. We're finally back in New York, and I just we were making a quiche this morning, and I was thinking, when Broadway comes back, we don't have this time on a Sunday to make a quiche. We're out the door because we have 2 shows, and we don't get to enjoy the gorgeous snow that's falling down right now. It's just a hindrance to getting to the train and going to work. So right now I'm just trying to be all right, I'm going to enjoy this time with my wife and just make the most of it. Cause all the dips and peaks of this whole experience, focus on the good for now. And, there's always going to be peaks when Broadway comes back, but there's also the why am I doing this? I could have been a doctor. I could have been a used car salesman. I could have done so many different things.
Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah.
My husband and I bought a house in Beacon, New York. We bought a fixer-upper. So we've been busy. It's a cute little cottage, and it's from the 30s, and it needs a lot of work. So we've been fixing it, but I'm in my dance studio. This is like the guest room, but it for now is my dance studio. I started a Zoom studio, and I teach like 15 classes. And I opened a little company up here with my best friend where we teach master classes to the people in Beacon. And it's really hard and fun. And I'm dancing a ton every day. That's why I was like, wearing dance clothes just now. And I have another run at 1, but it's been really fun because I'm doing stuff that I don't really feel comfortable doing. And so it's been challenging me in a time where I feel like it's hard to feel challenged right now. I mean, it's really easy to feel challenged in mental and spiritual ways, but I feel like I'm getting to create because I'm coming up with choreography for these kids, and I'm teaching them audition choreo for their college audition. We're getting them ready for college, and it's all on Zoom. So it's really cool to flex a different side of the creative muscle that I'm not used to doing. Because like the last time I created something was Paramore, the choreography, we're coming up with the choreo. So that was the last time I got to do stuff like that. And it's nice to have space in nature. Like the snow is falling and we have a snowblower, and it's new, and we're trying to grow and process things like everyone knows, but we're doing okay. That's it.
It's been a weird year. I mean, I joined the Broadway cast of Wicked a year ago last November as a swing and understudying The Wizard and Dr. Dilliman. And then I performed my last track the week before the shutdown. And then Steven and I, my husband, and I was lucky because I had this side business as a certified life coach and life and career coach. I'd always done sort of like as a side thing to my acting. And I just dove in full time, and it's become my income. And then Steven started teaching. He's a ballet dancer, started teaching classes virtually, and he's doing 3 hours right now if you can hear the music. And so he's doing virtual dance classes, and then he got offered to teach at a ballet school in Houston. And while we were getting ready to leave, we sold our New York apartment. So we put everything into storage, drove 3 days to Houston. We've been here since August. And so I've been able to work from home while he's teaching. And I never thought I'd ever live in Texas again, but here we are 6 months later. And it's where I'm from. My family's not far from here. And it looks like we are probably going to have a baby this year. Big news. And we also just put down on a house in Texas. So I think we're going to stay here for a while. So my whole life has changed. So that's my life right now. It's totally different.
Brett, that's so great. That's so great.
Oh, congratulations. And Ryan, congrats
Thanks.
on getting married. And Sarah, your house. Ruby, I love your chair in the back that says Indigo.
Aaron stole that from me. I didn't steal it. He did.
I love it. No, it's very cute. We were talking off air about like props, because that was one of my questions. If you got a chance to keep anything specific from the show, a prop or a costume, did any of you get to keep anything?
I did. I got, I gave it away, but I kept my corset, my hip pads, and my fake boobs and my fake butt. And I gave it to Justin Prescott so he could dress up for drag.
The hip pads, I forgot about that.
Oh, there's one more thing that I stole, and I did steal it, and I don't have remorse. I stole my Indigo boots for the Western number, the white pearl ones, Ruby, and I stole those because they were for my foot. They'd only been worn a handful of times, and I wore them in my wedding.
Oh, that's cool.
Ryan played the music and sang at my wedding. Ryan sang at my wedding, like while we were saying our vows, and like, in and out the intro and outro, and he played guitar and sang. And so I got to have that little piece of Paramore with me on my wedding day, which was really special.
That was such a beautiful ceremony.
Thanks. It was because of you.
That's
No,
so
it was the guys who
sweet.
sang that other song. That was the thing.
I did have some guys that sang like a funny song, but no, Ryan.
Yeah.
It was baby. It was you.
It's your tears. I'm very practical, so I have like there's like a thin brown belt that I never wore on stage because I was like, I'm wearing suspenders and I have a sweater vest that's covering this belt. And so I'm just going to keep it. And so I still wear that belt a lot. And I think a pair of shoes that I wore when we did Macy's Thanksgiving that didn't go into the show, I kept. Other than that, just the memories. And I think a massage ball, like a
lacrosse ball.
I have one
Yeah.
of those.
I think it's just fun.
Yeah.
It says Paramore on it. Pop, P-A-P-T Paramore. And so just ball.
I don't think I kept anything except my friendships, like the people I met. I don't think I have anything from Paramore.
I think I just kept a bunch of shoes.
Oh, I definitely did get the shoes. They gave us the shoes. I definitely have. Oh, you know what I have? Philippe Decoufflé
His zebra shirt?
forced them to get me a pair of mime shoes that I was supposed to wear. These like white suede bottom mime shoes that to be part of my costume. There are like $400 French made something or other that I ended up never wearing. I still have those.
If you could have done any actual Cirque portion, in the show, one of the acrobatic stunts, and you were obviously not everybody's allowed to do all of them, but which one would you have loved to have tried?
The trampoline.
I think the sear wheel. Yeah, and it's just coming back to me now because the artist who did the sear wheel in our show, I watched do the sear wheel in like the first Cirque show I had gone to. It was Cirque Eloise, their show ID, and I was like obsessed with this act when I saw it in like 2011 at Penn State, and then fast forward 5 years later, and I'm on stage singing a song that was written for me while this guy is in the background doing the sear wheel. And it was just like a whoa kind of moment.
That's awesome.
I don't know. I think I would have done, what was it called? The teeter-totter?
Oh, yeah.
You would have done
The
teeter-totter.
The
Teeterboard.
teeterboard.
I would have totally done that. That looked like fun. As long as somebody caught me, I'd be good.
Well, let me give you 5 rapid fire questions before we end our conversation. So, and you guys can say in whatever order you'd like. So the first one is your favorite Paramore song.
Ryan's song. Writer's Block. Yeah.
I liked that. I actually liked Hollywood, the Honeymoon Days of Fame.
Yeah.
I liked that song.
Good one.
Somebody actually on Instagram posted a video of that the other day, and it was really weird to see it. I'm thinking, wow, that was so strange that like we were creating these video snapshots on stage. It was still looked very raw. The video that I saw, I'm like, wow, it still looks really like the costume looks cheap, and like it just looked really raw to me. Wow.
It was.
That was the part that they didn't change. Like the new 2.0 kept that exact thing how it was.
I'm between Serenade from a Window, like Stardom Recognition. It was like it was like the one song that kind of like really felt like that kind of old Hollywood movie. That, and then like my favorite number to do was the film strip, because I got to like actually like we were dancing and we were like doing handstands and stuff, and I felt like it was always like I was doing like a Cirque show, like I had just done a song, and then like I like fall down a ladder and like enter this like film strip with all these like incredible dancers, and I feel like I'm part of something, and then at the end I like got to just like belt my face off, and like it was really like, I don't know, it was exciting. It was like the most like I've ever been on like a Broadway show stage.
How about your favorite Paramore line?
Oh God.
What was the punchline when we had that scene together, Brett? Something about like I recognizing that you were gay. I forget what it was.
Well, there was something where I had to grab the wall and say the line and freeze. I can't remember the line.
That whole scene, the dressing room scene.
How am I going to live? It was something like, "We're all gonna die," and then I had to freeze.
I came in dressed up, look at a mustache and stuff.
Oh my God!
And then, but before that even happened, it was like the reveal was me in a wig, and like it was supposed to be like in a bra and underwear, and it was. It definitely hit the cutting room floor, but we used that wig for too many shows. So just that whole scene.
I think my favorite line was "I was never cheap," only because it was like, the only one I remember.
Oh yeah.
Yes, girl.
I was never cheap. And someone said that to me, like someone either from Paramore, I think it was like a Meahl or somebody said it to me recently, and I was like, "What are you talking about?" And they're like, "Wasn't that like one of your lines?" I had totally let that go. Something I said, like, for thousands of performances.
Yeah, I may be something, but I was never cheap.
How about your favorite Paramore movie set, like the Western set, Egypt, or the New York City Tops?
Oh, Rooftops, easy.
I think the Egypt was so beautiful. I mean, that the look of the costumes and the Atherton twins. I mean, that was really beautiful.
The whole front facade proscenium with that figure. I mean, I couldn't even believe how beautiful.
Yeah, that was gorgeous. Mm-hmm. That Art Deco.
I still don't know who is responsible for that, but gosh, that was so beautiful.
Yeah, I still think the best effect was the film strips. I just think the way that they were just little boxes, but the way they would project the two sides and it would come up. I mean, that was really, I think, pretty effective.
What about your favorite Paramore character?
Cooper. Yeah, the clown. Yeah. It was just like a role. Cooper came in like a few weeks or like months into our creation process. Like we were like, who is this Cooper? Like who's gonna come in? And then he came in and he had a big box of toys that had like roller skates and lassos and like a balaclava and just like it was like a giant toy chest, and he just came and he played, and eventually like it was like, oh, this will be a great part for Cooper to come in, and we're like, and Nate's just like, oh, okay, I guess I'll be a part of this story. And like it was a complete like something that wasn't in the show, wasn't even like in the script at all, and then it became like this huge, like this thing that was kind of like circling everywhere, kind of like a Lear's clown or like,
And he never called out once. He's the only one.
Oh, never. Yeah. He came, there was like one day where he like almost did. And I think Keats would have had to go on, but he 100% of the shows.
I second that.
Yeah, I liked that the way he threaded himself into the story. It was really well done.
He also was.
He didn't have any lines. He was mute, but like he kept the ball in the air, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. It kept energy in like places where like the story hadn't had it, and also just like really fun to do a scene with him, because it's just like, as an actor, you're like, oh, he's playing and he's like honest and he's trying new things, but he's not trying to like steal the stage away. He like is giving, and it's like you wish more actors were just clowns.
And then finally, your favorite Paramore dub smash.
Mine is I liked the Les Mis one. I think was it Les Mis was closing, and then I just remember Rafal as Jean Valjean.
The one I'm the most proudest of still to this day was the Harry Potter one.
Stop. You're going to take someone's eye out. Besides, you're saying it wrong. It's Leviosa, not Leviosa.
Expecto Patronum! Expelliarmus!
It was like our last one, and I was very proud of it.
I like Some Like It Hot. I felt like you guys were hilarious in that, and Some Like It Hot.
Some Like It Hot was good.
My last wife was an acrobatic dancer. You know, sort of a contortionist. She could smoke a cigarette while holding it between her toes. Which of these instruments do you play? Both fiddle. Oh, fascinating. Do you use a bow or do you just pluck it?
Most of the time, I slap it.
You can't trust those guys.
I can't trust myself. I have this thing about saxophone players, especially tenor sax.
It's so sad to think that it's been like 5 years, because I thought the show would run longer. So obviously you guys ran for a year, and for most people know that the Harry Potter play kind of took the place of where Paramore used to be. I wish it lasted a longer time, and now it's seeing a new audience in Germany, which is really great. But if you guys could use one word to summarize the entire experience of Paramour, what word would that be?
Yes, surreal. It was very surreal for me.
Informative. I feel like it helped me learn a lot of lessons that I needed to continue on with my Broadway career and as a human, and just like being a speck on the earth, and just realizing that, you know, we're not the only ones. Broadway isn't everything. Like, there's all these cultures and all these people from all over the world that are dealing with different things. And my little princess moment problem is not the, it helped put things in perspective. It gave me perspective. Maybe that's my word.
I want to say, like, the only word I can think of is like luxuriant. Like, it was full. It was just like a very full, like, I made great money. We were creative. It was, you know, there was chaos, but it was like always full. Like, there was always emotions and joy to be had. And it was, I don't know, it was like a really interesting, so luxuriant, I think is the word I would use.
I don't have one word, but I have like probably the definition of a word that probably exists in German or like some like ancient language that means both grounding and elevating. It was like an experience that like put me, like humbled me, and kept me on the ground, but also showed like all the heights that people are able to achieve if they just reach for it and strive like towards doing something greater, but remaining humble in yourself.
And as fans, we loved it. It was so much fun to kind of follow along on Instagram. So thank you for all those dub smashes. And, you know, it was just a real joy. I wish it had gotten a longer run. I was hoping to come back right before you guys ended, and I wasn't able to. But I really enjoyed it, and I think you guys put so much hard work and effort, and I was really sad that you guys didn't get nominated for Tonys. That was ridiculous, because I was really hoping. But I just wanted to thank you guys so much for being on the show and for being able to do this reunion with me. This was so much fun. I cannot thank you guys enough. And I hope I get to see you again on the Broadway stage, all four of you, wherever you might be, because you guys are so darn talented.
Thank you.
Thank you.